Every truck that we put on the road that replaces a diesel truck is a huge amount of leverage, and so that is why we're doing this, and makes a huge difference towards driving us towards our total mission of sustainable energy and transportation.
Something big is brewing at Toyota. Something so game-changing, it could turn the electric vehicle world upside down. We've always known Toyota as a quiet giant in the auto industry. But now, they're making headlines with a breakthrough that could shake the very foundation of the EV revolution. According to insiders, prototypes are being tested in secrecy, patents are being filed, and rumors are swirling. At the center of it all? A bold claim from Toyota's CEO. This could be the beginning of the end for electric vehicles as we know them. Why such confidence? What exactly are they working on? Let's dig in. The quiet limits of the EV revolution. It all started as a whisper. Industry murmurs hinting that Toyota was onto something. But those whispers have turned into a roar after a stunning announcement. Our new engine will make EVs obsolete. A bold statement, right? But before we unpack the tech behind this disruptive innovation, we need to take a step back and look at the broader picture. What led us here in the first place? Electric vehicles are often hailed as the future, clean, green, and the key to a sustainable tomorrow. But under the hood, literally and figuratively, there's a silent revolution driving them forward. And it all hinges on one thing: rare earth elements. Rare earths. The hidden backbone of EVs. Every high-performance EV motor runs on powerful permanent magnets. These are made from rare earth elements like neodymium, praseodymium, dysprosium, and terbium. You might not recognize these names, but without them, your EV wouldn't have the torque or efficiency that makes it special. Yes, there are alternatives, but they tend to be bulkier, less efficient, and too costly for widespread use. Right now, rare earths aren't just helpful, they're critical. But here's the problem. Over 85% of the world's rare earth processing happens in one country, China. A dangerous dependence. That's not just a statistic, it's a strategic chokehold. While countries like Australia and the US may have raw materials underground, China dominates when it comes to refining and processing them into usable components. Even if the rocks are mined elsewhere, they almost always end up in Chinese facilities before becoming EV ready. And China knows it. They've imposed export quotas, enforced stricter environmental rules, and have even hinted at using rare earths as leverage in trade disputes. This means the entire EV industry, for all its innovation, is sitting on geopolitical quicksand. A trade conflict, policy change, or global crisis could send shockwaves through supply chains worldwide. The cost of clean energy rare earths don't just come with a strategic cost, they come with a financial and environmental one too. The market is wildly volatile. In 2010 to 2011, when China cut exports, the prices of key rare earths soared by over 750%. Automakers panicked, governments scrambled, supply chains were thrown into chaos. Even now, prices remain unpredictable. But beyond the dollars, there's a darker cost to rare earth extraction. In places like Inner Mongolia, mining has devastated the environment. Toxic waste has contaminated rivers and farmlands. Entire communities have been displaced. It's a harsh reality. While EVs promise clean energy, the process of making them can be anything but. The human toll. And then there's the issue of labor. In less regulated regions, rare earth mining often involves unsafe conditions, poor wages, and exploitative practices. In the race to electrify, many consumers unknowingly support unethical supply chains. It's a contradiction we don't talk about enough. Searching for solutions. So, what's the way forward? Countries like the US and Australia are racing to diversify supply. The US has labeled rare earths as critical minerals and is investing in mining and refining infrastructure. There's even growing interest in deep sea mining, though it brings its own set of environmental concerns. And now, back to Toyota. Their bold claim suggests they may have found a way to bypass this entire rare earth dependency, perhaps a revolutionary engine that doesn't rely on them at all. Is it real? Can it scale? Could it truly signal the decline of electric vehicles as we know them? Let's find out. Beneath the waves, scattered across the ocean floor, lie deposits of rare earth minerals, another potential answer to the global EV demand. But there's a catch. These deep-sea resources are incredibly expensive to access, and realistically, we're still years, maybe even decades, away from making them scalable. And it's not just cost. These methods raise serious environmental and ethical questions too. Then there's another idea gaining traction: recycling rare earths from old electronics, electric motors, and batteries. It sounds ideal, green, circular, efficient, and it does hold promise. But right now, it's barely making a dent. Recycling rates remain low, and the infrastructure needed to support large-scale recovery simply isn't there yet. This brings us to a much deeper question, one we don't ask often enough. Is the current EV model truly sustainable? A complicated transition. The narrative around electric vehicles is usually framed as a clean break. Gasoline bad, electricity good. But the truth is much more complex. Sure, EVs eliminate tailpipe emissions, but if you trace the entire supply chain, from the mine to the motor, you start to see a much messier environmental footprint. And this is exactly where Toyota stands out. While many automakers raced headfirst into full electrification, Toyota took a different route. They bet big on hybrids, focusing on reducing emissions gradually, rather than going all in on EVs right away. They were criticized for being too cautious, but in hindsight, it might have been strategic foresight. Toyota seems to have recognized early on the looming issues: resource shortages, geopolitical dependence, and the inconvenient realities hidden behind the glossy image of electric cars. They didn't just hedge their bets. They may have seen the warning signs before the rest of the world caught on. The real roadblocks to electrification. As we look toward a zero-emissions future, it's becoming clear that this race won't be won by lithium-ion batteries and charging stations alone. To truly transition, we need solutions that address the root problems, not just shift them around. Because when you peel back the layers, you realize the current EV revolution is built on fragile ground. And that brings us to one of the biggest and heaviest challenges of all: the battery problem. Modern lithium-ion batteries offer energy densities of around 250 to 300 watt-hours per kilogram. That might sound impressive until you compare it to gasoline, which delivers over 12,000 watt-hours per kilogram. Even after factoring in the inefficiencies of combustion engines, the gap is still massive. To match the energy of a full gas tank, an EV needs hundreds of kilograms of batteries. And that's not just a performance issue. It's a fundamental limit of physics and chemistry. Improving energy density isn't as simple as upgrading a chip or adding more cells. It often comes at a price: reduced safety, shorter battery life, and higher costs. The more energy-dense a battery is, the more volatile it can become. Risks like overheating or even fire increase. And while we often hear about experimental breakthroughs in labs, scaling those innovations for mass production is still a major challenge. Right now, we're trying to pack more energy into tighter spaces, and we're bumping up against the limits of what's physically possible. The infrastructure gap. Even if we accept those battery limitations, a bigger hurdle looms: infrastructure. Replacing the world's gasoline-powered cars with EVs would require a charging network of unprecedented scale, one that's fast, reliable, and accessible to everyone, everywhere. Right now, we're nowhere near that reality. According to the IEA, public fast chargers make up only a small fraction of EV charging worldwide, and they're mostly concentrated in large cities and wealthier regions. For people living in apartments, rural areas, or underserved communities, charging an EV isn't just inconvenient, it's often impossible. This creates a divide, not just in access, but in equity, reliability, and freedom of mobility. Building a truly inclusive EV charging network would require billions of dollars, years of construction, and coordinated policies on a global scale. And even then, it may still not rival the ease and speed of filling up a gas tank. Time is also a barrier. Even the fastest EV chargers today take 20 to 40 minutes to deliver a meaningful charge. Compare that to the 3 to 5 minutes it takes to refuel a gasoline car. For road trips, deliveries, or families on the go, That's a significant lifestyle change. The idea of waiting around to charge is more than just inconvenient. It's a psychological barrier. Many drivers still see fast refueling as non-negotiable. So where does that leave us? Toyota's recent announcements hint that they may have found a different path forward, one that doesn't rely entirely on batteries, rare earths, or charging stations. If their claims prove true, it could change everything. The practicality paradox of EVs. Here's a surprising twist. To extend the range of electric vehicles, manufacturers often add larger battery packs. But those bigger batteries come with a downside. They make the car heavier, which ironically reduces its efficiency. A typical EV battery can weigh between 900 and 1,600 pounds. In some cases, that's nearly a third of the vehicle's entire weight. This extra mass affects everything from handling and braking to the wear and tear on tires and suspension systems. And it doesn't stop there. Heavier vehicles use more energy to accelerate, especially in stop-and-go traffic. So, while the goal is to go farther on a single charge, the extra weight can actually shorten the range those larger batteries are supposed to increase. But this isn't just a vehicle issue. The impact of widespread EV adoption is much bigger. A grid under pressure. A mass shift to electric vehicles would place enormous pressure on national electric grids, many of which are already struggling. Imagine millions of EVs plugging in to charge during peak hours. Without major upgrades, power outages could become more common, and electricity prices could rise sharply. Adding renewable energy like solar and wind can help, but these sources come with their own challenges. They're intermittent. The sun doesn't always shine, and the wind doesn't always blow. Some utility companies are exploring smart charging technologies that can manage when and how EVs pull energy from the grid. But widespread adoption is still slow, and modernizing aging grid infrastructure, especially in large, spread-out countries, is a generational project, not something that can be solved in a few business quarters. The cold reality of EV batteries. And then there's the weather. EV batteries don't perform well in the cold. In sub-zero temperatures, an EV's range can drop by 20 to 40%, and charging takes longer. That's because cold slows down the chemical reactions inside the battery, and more energy is used to heat both the battery and the cabin. Unlike gasoline engines, which generate waste heat that can warm the car, EVs must draw energy from the battery to do the same, further reducing driving range. For people living in colder climates, this isn't just inconvenient, it's limiting. Real-world limitations for real people. All of these challenges, the weight, the range loss, the grid strain, and cold weather performance, are real limitations that affect real people. Commuters, families, truck drivers, delivery workers. And not all of them have the same needs or drive in the same conditions. And this is where Toyota once again stands apart. It's not that Toyota opposes electrification. Far from it. They were early pioneers, introducing hybrids like the Prius long before it was trendy. But they've taken a more measured approach, seemingly recognizing something others overlook. Not every region, every driver, or every use case fits neatly into a one-size-fits-all EV model. That mindset might turn out to be visionary, because if batteries alone can't get us to a cleaner, more efficient future, then what can? That brings us to the next chapter in this story, the bold new technologies that may redefine everything we know about energy storage and propulsion. The search for what comes after lithium. If lithium-ion batteries are starting to hit their limits, the big question becomes, what comes next? After all, the chemistry that powers most EVs today was developed back in the 1980s. And while improvements have been made, we're now reaching the upper limits of what lithium-ion can deliver. So, engineers, scientists, and automakers are exploring what lies beyond. Next-generation energy solutions that could take us further, faster, and more sustainably. Some of these ideas are improvements on familiar tech. Others represent radical shifts in how we think about powering vehicles. Solid-state batteries. The game changer? At the top of the list, solid-state batteries. Unlike conventional lithium-ion batteries, which use liquid electrolytes, solid-state versions replace that liquid with a solid material, usually ceramic or a specialized polymer. This seemingly small change unlocks some major advantages: higher energy density, more range in less space, faster charging times, and significantly better safety, since solid electrolytes are non-flammable. In theory, solid-state batteries could deliver twice the energy density of today's batteries, without the same risk of overheating or fire. They also allow for faster ion movement, which means charging times could drop from hours to just minutes. That's the holy grail for both automakers and drivers. But of course, there's a catch: the challenge of making it real. Solid-state batteries face some stubborn technical and manufacturing hurdles. For example, they're prone to dendrite formation, tiny, branch-like structures that can grow and cause short circuits inside the battery. There are also scaling issues. Producing these batteries affordably and consistently at mass-market volumes is still a huge challenge. And like their lithium-ion cousins, they don't perform well in cold weather. Still, Toyota has placed one of the boldest bets in the industry, investing billions in the development and commercialization of solid-state batteries, with a target to bring them to market by the late 2020s. Exploring alternatives: sodium-ion batteries. But lithium isn't the only element in the spotlight. Another emerging option is the sodium-ion battery. While these don't yet offer the same energy density as lithium-based versions, they're much cheaper to produce and rely on more abundant, easily sourced materials. In other words, they may not be as flashy, but they could be key to making electric transportation more affordable and accessible worldwide. Powering the future. Beyond lithium-sodium is emerging as a promising alternative to lithium, and for good reason. It's one of the most abundant elements on Earth, far more accessible than lithium, and doesn't rely on environmentally sensitive or politically unstable supply chains. Sodium-ion batteries are also inherently safer and cheaper to produce, making them an ideal choice for low-cost electric vehicles or large-scale grid storage. The trade-off: energy density. Right now, sodium-ion batteries offer about 20 to 30% less energy density than their lithium-ion counterparts, which limits their usefulness in long-range vehicles. But research is quickly closing that gap. Companies like CATL and Faradion are already rolling out sodium-ion batteries in limited commercial applications. As the tech matures, these batteries could become the affordable, sustainable backbone of transportation in developing regions or for vehicles designed for shorter daily use. The dark horses: radical battery concepts. Then there are the wild cards, battery technologies that, if cracked, could completely change everything we know about vehicle range and refueling. One of the most exciting ideas: metal air batteries. These include types like aluminum air, zinc air, and lithium air, which generate electricity by reacting metal with oxygen from the air. This process gives them incredible theoretical energy densities, some potentially on par with gasoline. For instance, aluminum air batteries could, in theory, power a car for over 1,000 miles on a single charge. The catch? They're not easily rechargeable. Most metal air batteries are semi-primary, meaning you can't just plug them in when they're empty. Instead, the metal anode needs to be replaced or recycled after use. They also face technical hurdles: electrodegradation, humidity sensitivity, short life cycles. Still, if researchers solve these issues, metal air batteries could unlock ultra-long-range electric transport, especially valuable in freight or aviation, where weight and energy density are critical. Hydrogen fuel cells. The long game. One alternative that's already made it to the streets is hydrogen fuel cell technology. Instead of storing electricity like batteries, fuel cells generate power on demand by combining hydrogen and oxygen, emitting only water vapor from the tailpipe. Fuel cell vehicles can refuel in under 5 minutes, just like gas cars, and offer ranges similar to internal combustion engines. It sounds perfect, so why haven't they taken off? The problem lies with the fuel itself. Today, most hydrogen is produced using natural gas, a process known as steam methane reforming, which unfortunately releases CO2. The cleaner option, green hydrogen, made by splitting water with renewable electricity, is still costly and energy intensive. Hydrogen is also hard to store and transport, and there's a severe lack of refueling infrastructure, especially outside of major cities. Still, Toyota has spent more than 20 years investing in hydrogen, producing the Mirai, one of the only fuel cell vehicles available to the public. This isn't just a product choice. It reflects Toyota's belief in a multi-pathway future, where no single technology has all the answers. Ammonia, a new contender. Now there's growing interest in ammonia, a compound made from nitrogen and hydrogen, as a carbon-free fuel. Unlike hydrogen, ammonia is easier to store and transport and already has a global distribution network thanks to its use in agriculture. It can power internal combustion engines or be used in specialized fuel cells, making it a flexible option. But again, there are hurdles. Ammonia is toxic and corrosive, and if burned in a regular engine, it can release harmful nitrogen oxides, NOx, unless carefully controlled. Researchers are now developing clean combustion methods and advanced fuel cells that convert ammonia directly to electricity without burning it. If those technologies succeed, ammonia could become a high-energy, low-emission fuel perfect for long-haul transport. E-fuels, bridging the gap. And then there's synthetic fuels, or e-fuels, liquid fuels created by combining green hydrogen with captured CO2. What makes e-fuels so attractive is their compatibility with existing engines and infrastructure. No need for a new car or charging network, just cleaner fuel in the same tank. Major automakers like Porsche and Audi are already testing e-fuel production at pilot plants. But right now, e-fuels are expensive and energy-intensive to make. Still, as renewable electricity becomes more affordable and abundant, synthetic fuels could become a practical bridge solution, especially for sectors like aviation, shipping, and legacy vehicles, where electrification is hard to implement. Toyota's strategic patience. So where does all of this leave Toyota? Right in the eye of the storm. Toyota's decision not to go all in on battery electric vehicles has often been criticized, but it's not about resisting change. It's about acknowledging complexity. They understand that no single technology, whether it's lithium-ion, hydrogen, or synthetic fuels, will fit every region, every use case, or every driver. And in a world racing toward decarbonization, that kind of big-picture thinking might just be what sets them apart. Understanding the bigger picture Toyota isn't placing all its bets on just one technology. Instead, it's building a wide-ranging strategy that includes hybrids, plug-in hybrids, hydrogen fuel cells, synthetic fuels, and now solid-state batteries. What message does that send? Simply this: the future of clean transportation won't be one size fits all. Different regions have different challenges. Different vehicles serve different purposes. And no single solution, not even the most advanced electric vehicle, can cover every need on its own. A world going in different directions. Look around the globe, and you'll see how varied the journey toward cleaner transportation really is. In Europe, governments are pushing hard for a fully electric future. The EU plans to ban the sale of new internal combustion engine vehicles by 2035. Countries like Norway and the Netherlands want to get there even sooner. As a result, car makers like Volkswagen, Renault, and Mercedes-Benz are adapting quickly. Volkswagen, for instance, aims to stop selling gas-powered cars in Europe entirely by the early 2030s. In that environment, there's little room for compromise. It's EV or bust. But things look different in the United States. While federal tax incentives and state-level programs, especially in California, support EVs, adoption varies widely. In many rural and Midwestern areas, EVs are still rare. Infrastructure is sparse, and skepticism remains high. That's why American brands like Ford and GM are investing in electric vehicles, but also continuing to build trucks and hybrids. Flexibility is still key in the US. Then there's China, leading the world in EV adoption, on its own terms. Backed by strong government policies, big subsidies, and fierce competition, Chinese automakers like BYD, NIO, and XPeng are innovating at breakneck speed. But China isn't banning combustion engines. Instead, it's encouraging a race where the best technology wins, be it electric, hybrid, hydrogen, or something else entirely. This gives Chinese manufacturers a competitive advantage, especially in cost-sensitive emerging markets. The challenge of emerging markets. That brings us to the biggest unknown: emerging regions like India, Africa, and parts of Southeast Asia. In these areas, EV infrastructure is still in its infancy. Power grids are unreliable, charging stations are scarce, and affordability is a top priority. Here, hybrid vehicles, biofuels, and efficient combustion engines are often more practical than fully electric cars. This is exactly where Toyota's diverse approach shines. Rather than chasing headlines, the company focuses on what works for real people in real places. It's not flashy, but it's effective. A defining moment for automakers. Right now, the auto industry is facing a fork in the road. Do you go all in on EVs, or do you diversify to survive? And just when that divide seemed clearer than ever, Toyota made a move that could change everything. A game changer in the making. According to reports from inside Toyota, something revolutionary is happening behind closed doors. In a high-level meeting with top engineers and executives, Toyota CEO Koji Sato reportedly made a stunning announcement. Our new engine will end electric cars. He pointed to a prototype and said, "These brilliant minds standing with me, we haven't been celebrating. We've been building the future. And this is it." What followed was one of the boldest claims in automotive history: an engine that runs on water. How could that work? Insiders suggest Toyota's engineering team has been developing a highly efficient system that extracts hydrogen from water on demand, possibly using a solid-state electrolysis process. This is a major leap forward from traditional hydrogen fuel cell vehicles, which require bulky, high-pressure hydrogen tanks. Instead, this new system would split water into hydrogen and oxygen in real time, eliminating the need for external refueling. All you'd need is water. Speculation points to advanced tech like plasma ignition or cutting-edge nanocatalysts that trigger and sustain the reaction using far less energy. Breakthroughs may also involve ceramic or graphene-based membranes that boost efficiency, avoid the use of precious metals, and operate at low temperatures. The result? No more reliance on lithium-ion batteries, no more rare earth dependency, no need for massive hydrogen fueling networks. A clean, portable, scalable energy system. What this means for the future. If Toyota's claims are true, this new technology could render electric vehicles, and possibly all current powertrains, obsolete. Imagine a car that runs on nothing but water, with zero emissions, no heavy batteries, and no charging delays. It's a bold vision. But if anyone can pull it off, it's a company like Toyota, one that hasn't just followed trends, but studied the underlying challenges and sought to solve them differently. So, the question is, would you drive a car that only needs water? Let us know what you think.